Let's talk about this Louisville football transfer portal class. And to do so, we brought in an expert.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Now, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to get started. I figured to talk about Louisville's transfer portal class as a whole on the football side of things. What better way than to bring in a person who's been on the show before, I guess former, current, whatever you want to say, college football analyst for the Locked On Podcast Network, now host of The Portal, also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, Brian Smith. Brian, welcome back in, man.
Appreciate it. I am very busy with the portal and recruiting right now. Needless to say, the Portal podcast, every day got at least a couple of shows.
Man, it is. It's that time of year where, spring portal window is finally, it ended on the 25th of April, and now you're starting to see the final editions start to be made across the country. But I want to get Brian's take on Louisville's portal class. Almost 30 newcomers and counting for this year. We'll talk about Miller Moss. We'll talk about some of the weapons that Brohm has brought in and much, much more. Brian, I guess we'll start out with this seems like it's going to be the last portal class that Brohm conducts where it's around 30 players. It seems like he's starting to prioritize high school recruiting a little bit more because the market's just stupid inflated right now with the portal and NIL. So I want to kind of get your overall thoughts just when you looked at this haul initially. What were some things that stood out to you, some initial thoughts, some concerns, and so forth?
Number one, you got a quarterback that matters. Overall, getting Miller Moss matters. In Brohm's offense, if you don't have a quarterback, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. He needs a playmaker there. And there's a lot of ways you can define it, but Moss can move around. He can make plays. And I know he still needs to improve turnovers and stuff like that, but he has a tremendous amount of upside. Secondarily, it's pretty balanced. They don't have, I was going through, I'm like, okay, where can I find a hole? They took so many kids, it was almost hard not to be balanced. That's one way to look at it. But secondarily, they got a lot of kids that I was noticing they played at least 2 years. So they got a lot of kids that are like redshirt juniors, redshirt sophomores. That's a good thing because you need experience because we've lost a lot of players. Derek Dawson went to Notre Dame. They lost several guys, graduation, etc. They had to use portal again. But the other thing, and this is where I just gravitate, I'm sure you're going to ask me this, like, is there a guy that I have a feeling is going to take a big step up? I'm just going to throw this out now. Treyshun, the wide receiver, that's just, you're probably like, who? San Jose State. That's one of those kids that's a Brohm special if I've ever seen it. Like, he wasn't unbelievable last year, but he's 6'2", 195 pounds. He had some pretty decent receiving grades.
Right.
Possession receiver, catches everything, makes guys miss. But then because he makes guys miss, his average is pretty decent. Those are the kind of things that you see out of Louisville every year. He finds a kid like that somewhere every freaking year. So that's my pick is the surprise player for the Louisville Cardinals this year.
And it starts with the quarterback, as you mentioned, Brohm, one of those QB gurus. 6 quarterbacks that he sent to the NFL in his head coaching career, the most recent being Tyler Shough. And I have to imagine the rehabilitation of Shuck's career from, coming in as like who is this guy to now being a second-round draft pick. Just another bit where Brohm sprinkles some magic and keeps Tyler Shough healthy, and the talent is on full display. And I have to wonder, with Miller Moss's situation, and it's a different situation, whether or not it was predominantly his fault at USC, whether it was Lincoln Riley needing a scapegoat. What was your kind of take on that matter? Because I think USC fans are kind of torn with how Moss departed. And, well, was it his fault? Was it not? Column A, column B. What was your take?
That was a really weird deal. He has more eligibility left. He's a kid that wanted to go to SC. I was a little surprised about that, but I'm guessing there was something behind closed doors where people just didn't get along. I don't know if it was NIL revolving around it. I don't know if it was play calling. No idea.
Yeah.
But it was like, this doesn't happen at Lincoln Riley's offense. It's like, once he's got a quarterback, that's the guy until he leaves.
Yeah.
This went against the norm.
And he got benched. I mean, he did get benched midway through the season. They went with someone a little bit more mobile, and the offense really didn't take that step forward that they were hoping. And it was like, is this Miller Moss's problem, or is this Lincoln Riley, I need an answer type problem, and we're going to try to throw something in a wall and hope it sticks?
That's what I was kind of like. Maeva is the quarterback they went with, and I think he's got a world upside. He's a kid that transferred, I believe, from UNLV. But I don't know. I thought that was a little desperate because that kid was pretty risky. He threw some picks and some dumb passes that probably should have been picked. I don't know if they really upgraded or not, but in the end of the day, it's Louisville's gain. That's how I look at it. Because we've seen, like you said, Tyler Shuck, that guy was brittle. They kept him healthy, and he makes himself a second-round pick. I'm thinking he's pretty happy with his life right now.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Plummer the year before, it seems like if you're a transfer portal quarterback, Louisville's got to be a spot that you look at. And we kind of mentioned that with Miller Moss, and Louisville went into this battle between them and Missouri. And Louisville ends up winning that. And I would like to hear your, I guess, synopsis of a scouting report on him, because there's some things that he doesn't do as well as Tyler Shuck in terms of like the arm strength and that live arm, so to speak, but his processing ability to sort of just continue to make plays even on the run. What are some things that impress you most about Miller? And what are some things you're like, I mean, you mentioned turnovers, but some of the things you're like, yeah, I mean, he's got to clean this up before August rolls around.
I think every now and then he would miss an easy one. Like, he's the guy that makes the great play, but sometimes misses the obvious one that probably would drive anybody nuts. But to that point, he'll still scramble out of something, go get you 5 yards and extend the drive. So he fits the role that you want. I'm surprised that SC kind of went the other direction, but he did. And like, when I watch him throw, once he gets in a little bit of a rhythm, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. It's just every now and then he had a slump in a game, like he would just fail, like the Penn State game last year early on.
That was a weird one.
They were up 20-3 or something like that and lost at home. So, and part of that, he did not play well down the stretch. And that's part of it. But how much is that defense? Like USC's defense is, it's okay. So that's probably part of it, but he didn't put the nail in the coffin either. Now, that Penn State defense was Abdul Carter. It's like, I get it. But
right. Yeah, you have every opportunity to do so, right?
You're up 17, bro, and you're at home. You
need to win.
So I think that game was the beginning of his downfall, and maybe some people lost confidence in him. You know, I don't have their vertical game film to see which reads he missed and stuff like that, but they were kicking the crap out of Penn State, and then all of a sudden they weren't. So he didn't adjust. And there were a few other games like that too. So I think he was a bit of the scapegoat, and it's easy to change the quarterback to give yourself some more time. And Lincoln Riley's under a lot of heat. Yeah. But again, name a guy besides Brohm that's done better with transfer quarterbacks. There isn't one.
Not many other that you could even name. And I kind of wonder when we look at the ACC landscape, and I know that there's a ton of moving parts, guys going out, guys coming in. You've got guys like Cade Klubnik coming back. When you sort of, because I mean, you have a lot of focus on the Florida State side as well. When you look at this, or who projects to be the starting quarterbacks across the conference, where do you think Miller Moss kind of slides in at? Is he in that top tier? Is he right below it? Who are guys you say, yeah, for sure they're better than him, but where do you kind of slide him in at?
He's got to be top 3 or so. Number one's Klubnik. I don't think that's really that rough. He's experienced in that system, and he's pretty good anyway. He's going to be a senior. I'll put him 1 because that's the easy pick. But if you wanted to put Moss number 2, it wouldn't bother me. And everybody's like, well, what about the guy at Miami? I am not buying Miami's situation because, number one, it's Miami. They just always shoot themselves in the foot. And I know what it's like to have a bone spur on my elbow, okay? It's not fun. See what happened to him? That injury in the Georgia game against whoever, with Texas or whoever.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to bounce back. Moss, I know, is a competitor. I mean, how many guys are better than him in the league? I mean, Castellanos at Florida State's a wild card. I have no idea. But, I mean, seriously, who else would you pick?
Also the fit as well, right? I mean, you could maybe have someone that you might be able to look at and say there might be more talent in that arm, but is he in a system that's going to maximize that talent?
Yes.
And that's a tale as old as time. Like Mario Cristobal. I mean, he tried to ruin Justin Herbert. He wasn't able to do so. And finally, the number one pick rolls around, and I mean, Cristobal ends up having a generational year. I have to see more from Miami without that type of quarterback that goes number one overall for me to really be able to voice my faith in them. But I agree. I think he's in that top group. But I mean, look, unless you're just a hater of it, most people think Miller Moss is pretty good and that he's going to have a good season. But Brian, I'm more intrigued by the rest of the bunch that Louisville has brought in. We'll kind of go towards the offensive side of the ball when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at Upwork. If you're scaling your business, that's going to require the right experience at the right time. So with Upwork, you can find those specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and many more. Experts that are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses that flexibility that they need by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries like IT, AI, web development, and you name it. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Continuing on along, thanks again for making both Locked On Louisville and The Portal your first listens every day. Just a reminder, both shows free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team or your teams every day. Brian Smith joining us for the duration of the show today, talking about this Louisville Portal class that it's large in number. I feel like Brohm seemingly went with more mid-major talent this time around, whether that was an indication of, the scouting, whether it was an indication of the portal being a little inflated in terms of asking prices, maybe a little column A, column B. Let's go to the offensive side. Brian, you mentioned Treyshun Hurry. When he committed, which was pretty recently, I'm watching his film, and I know that Louisville needs a wide receiver 3. And I'm like, man, this guy just fits the bill, that home run, big playability. This guy, it seems like he's tailor-made for this role.
Yeah, I think that fits very well. He's got enough size. You can play him outside, but he's twitchy enough. You can play him in the slot. Might be a bubble screen guy, reverse, jet sweep. We know Brohm is going to run a lot of eye candy. He's not very much fun to prepare for. If that kid comes on with his head on straight, he could find himself getting drafted. And he's got the size you're looking for. He's 6'2", 195 pounds. Why not? He's already played some college football, and I know it's San Jose State, but he still made some plays too. So question becomes, how do they use him in reference to the other guys around? They got one of the most explosive players in college football in the backfield, so you're going to have a lot of single coverage. And I also think, again, with an experienced player like that, seeing an opportunity, he'll come in guns blazing.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember when we talked about it, I think it was the 2024 class, when I mentioned Isaac Brown for the first time, your eyes lit up and you're like, he's a guy, he's a dude. And I mean, right away, absolutely elite for the Cardinals. But you also mentioned before this show, you're not going to worry about quarterbacks or wide receivers when it comes to Jeff Brohm. They retained 2 of their main guys, so it's all about filling that depth. They ended up getting Bobby Golden from Akron, TJ McWilliams from Minnesota. Terrence McWilliams from Minnesota. Not really much in terms of the statistical numbers here, but thoughts on those additions?
I think it's the combination of size, experience, filling out the depth chart, and something you mentioned a minute ago. How many guys, especially, let's talk spring portal, when you looked at any position, if you go by the first 2 or 3, whether it's on threes rankings, 24/7 right, whatever, how many guys beyond number 3 were you excited about at any position?
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah.
So you're looking for fit and you're looking at the price tag. It's a more difficult scenario. Tight end, linebacker, spots like that aren't quote unquote marquee spots. You're not going to throw a ton of money in. Now, like there wasn't a lot of offensive tackles you're going to throw cash at anyway, but that's the hardest spot. Like hardly any of those guys get in the portal. So when Xavier Hill got in, the kid from Memphis, to play guard or tackle, I'm like, this kid's about to get paid. And he did. But,
Yeah.
Colorado threw a bunch of money at it. Okay, that's great. But there aren't very many like that. So if you miss on one of those, you just got to find guys that you hope compete. And I think Brohm's, and probably a lot of other schools too, they're looking to bring in guys that'll push the pile. If they win the job, great. If not, they got to back up for at least a year that's got some experience and has some natural size because he's been through a college weight program. They don't know. There's a bunch of guys I got on my list here. Like, you don't know, like Devon Mitchell, we're going to talk about, etc. Yeah,
It's all about projection. I mean, you can't with Louisville's situation, and they've prioritized the portal predominantly over the past couple of years, and scouting is a luxury at that point. I mean, it's something that you have to do very quickly. You've got to identify your targets and go get them. In one spot, tight end, they brought in 3 tight ends in the spring portal window alone. And it's sort of an unorthodox way that they did it. They went out and they got CJ Jacobson, who is not logged to catch at Utah. They got Jacob Stewart from San Jose State. That was a quarterback coming out of high school, pretty decent in JUCO, ends up switching to tight end. And then Devon Mitchell. And that's a pretty intriguing one because as a high school prospect, electric, sort of in that Jamari Johnson build of this guy is way too large to be running this well. But he goes to Oklahoma after reclassifying, and Brent Venables basically comes out and says, look, he just needed to grow up. Lack of better terms, grow up, mature. And it seemed like this spring things had sort of trickled towards that being the case, but he goes to the portal here. This feels like Brohm's just taking a swing for the fence here because you lose Jamari Johnson. You got to find some type of dynamic ability in that room that Louisville at the moment probably just doesn't have. He's a really good athlete. He's got good feet. He's a guy that can be a tight end one at the NFL level if he ever figures it out. Yeah, he's going to be 6'3", 260 playing in the NFL if he figures it out. Does that happen? I don't know. But again, like you said, he's a California kid. He reclassed, goes to Oklahoma. Didn't work out. That doesn't mean the next place won't be his destination. Now, there's a lot of risk. If Oklahoma let a kid like that walk, there's probably a lot of immature. I'm guessing this was a multiple offense, stupidity kind of thing. That would be my strong inkling. But he's a kid that reclassed. He's 17 years old, leaving home. That usually doesn't go well. So now what does Louisville do with it? As long as they don't try to force him into doing stuff and they take him along slow, which I know that doesn't fit today's era, but he's still only like 18 years old. He's probably not ready for Brohm's playbook. Probably not. So it's not an easy playbook to learn.
No, it's
right
not.
Away, and we've seen that. But
if he gets some reps, especially in the back half of the season,
right,
then in 26 he could be your tight end one. Don't expect it this year because he's still young, but the physical gifts are better than anybody else they've got on the roster.
Mm-hmm. Another guy I forgot to mention, a wide receiver, Dacari Collins, a player that you're probably familiar with from NC State, was sort of, unfortunately, a product of bad quarterback play over the past couple of years. I think really that's saying that might be an understatement, but it also seemed like some of the younger options in that room were sort of passing him up a little bit. I love Brohm going with a proven ACC guy to, once again, compete for that wide receiver 3 role.
Yeah, again, is he a guaranteed player to do that? No. Started out at Clemson, ends up at NC State. He's been banged up a lot in his career, but you like the frame, you like the length. This is is Louisville the wide receiver whisperer for late in their career? Like they've had a few guys like that, a little bit with quarterback too, but like guys that go get 40 balls, maybe at least get a chance to be an unrestricted free agent. Would it shock you? Because, he's got the physical size you're looking for. Wouldn't me. Louisville's passing attack is pretty impressive. So if he ends up being number 3 guy and helping them, or 4 guy, wouldn't be surprised at all.
Well, they've got the track record. Even if these guys aren't ones, you saw with Tyler Hudson, Jamari Thrash, Ja'Cory Brooks. Ja'Cory Brooks, a little bit of a different situation, but a guy who's looking to resurrect his career, and even Colin Lacey potentially this year. They've revamped the offensive line as well, which has been something that the offensive line coach has been able to do to get those guys to mesh together. Before we get to the defensive side, is there someone on offense that you want to highlight before we switch over to the defensive side?
Well, it was really Devon Mitchell. I wondered if you were going to bring him up because he's just intriguing long term.
Yeah, he's one of those, like, I literally titled the episode "Could Be a Game Changer" because
he is.
The reward is through the roof, but you just don't know what you're going to get because, I mean, look, Brian, you and I probably both didn't have things figured out at 17, 18 either, and there's a lot of growing up to do. But unfortunately, these kids are being paid a lot of money to produce right away, and that maturing aspect, like the amateurism aspect of college sports, it's gone. It's absolutely gone. And because they're making significantly more than, I mean, I am right now. I mean, but it is what it is. They're bringing in a lot more money to the universities that they're playing for. But it's the defensive side, Brian, that I'm kind of looking at thinking, okay, how's this going to go? And I'll explain a little bit more on that when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. I know you all saw Nikola Jokic will the Denver Nuggets to a victory over the Oklahoma City Thunder recently. Wow, that was absolutely must-watch moments. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in those games, whether it's before tip-off or live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Imagine combining some live prop bets mid-game that if you were to have taken the Denver Nuggets money line when they were down by a bunch of points, would have been a nice little payday. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up because if you head to FanDuel.com, you can place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We got one more segment with Locked On's college football national analyst and host of The Portal, Brian Smith. Brian, thanks again for joining us amidst your very busy schedule this time of year. The Louisville defense loses Ashton Gelati. It loses Quincy Riley, amongst other veterans. It was a defense that was kind of lackluster anyway last year, a little mid, because I think there's some questions over the defensive scheme. They keep Ron English, which has some fans a little bit worried. But you look at the defensive side of the ball, it's the name of the game is trust the scouting, it feels like, because there aren't many names that are going to jump off the page when you look at it.
They got a lot of guys that weren't dominant, but they at least have experience. Yeah. That's the most important thing here. If you have guys come in that are willing to listen, and again, they've been through college weight programs, they've been around the block, they understand some scheme, it'll be a smooth transition. But you're still gambling on it. Let me give you an example. You and I mentioned this before the show. Wesley Bailey, 6'5", 265. That's what you're looking for. He's going to be a 6-year guy. He was at Rutgers at one point. He had 423 snaps in 2023, but his run grade was 50. By Pro Football Focus. That's not desirable. That's pretty awful. So how does that work out? Then you got a guy like Joseph Jefferson, was at Purdue and Western Michigan. He's a safety. He had some decent grade, but he wasn't dominant. Corey Gordon Jr., same thing, 6'2", 190, played at Baylor, but like his coverage grade was 55.3. So they're good and bad with a lot of these guys. So they're betting on themselves to coach these guys up, and they're looking for experienced players. I mean, your take on that? I mean, they're not taking a whole lot of young guys here out of the ones I'm seeing. So what's your thought there?
I mean, I think it's literally that. And I think that maybe, and look, no one, I feel like, knew how inflated the market was going to be. Truthfully, I think
it's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. And I think that maybe they were saying, you know what, this is what we're going to do. And then as the market got so inflated, you have to pay Miller Moss, and you have so many needs that you have to sort of just trust the scouting here. Guys, you say, hey, maybe I recruited this guy coming out of high school and I believe in the traits. One guy that I will say I felt like was a good win was Clev Lubin from Coastal Carolina. Felt like he was a guy that multiple Power Fours went after. But I think he's going to slot right in to replace one of the pass rushers, and they're going to need him to step up alongside of some of the younger guys returning.
92 pass rush grade. And I get much better than that. So yeah, he can get after it. 6'3", 245. He's built like an edge rusher. Now he's going to have to play against better teams each and every week. But if you didn't want that smoke, you shouldn't have went to the Power Four. So yeah, I'd imagine he'll be okay. Look, if you're that consistent, your run defense is 69. That's okay for an edge rusher. But you're 92 as a pass rusher. Look, teams have to scheme against you a little bit differently, and he'll help the interior players and the linebackers be a little more free. So his value goes beyond statistics.
This Louisville fan base is never unanimous in the way that they think. It's constant clashing all the time. And that's pretty much almost any fan base. But Louisville's fan base is unanimous in identifying the main position of need heading into this portal in general. That was the secondary. You lost a ton. Quincy Riley was one of the better lockdown cornerbacks in the ACC over the past couple of years, and he's just one of the guys you lost. Not much returning there. You opt to go with some more length. Justin Agu, 6'1". There's Rodney Johnson at 6'2". Jabari Mack, 6'1". It seems like they're trying to go for those larger defensive backs that could project to be better run defenders, sort of how it was when they brought in Jarvis Brownlee and Corey Thornton. They don't necessarily have the production that those guys have, but
well, there's a couple ways you can look at it. Indiana went 11-1 last year using that approach. Arizona State took a guy from Sacramento State that took the world by storm at running back. Cam Scatterback. I don't worry about the level. I worry about the production. Yeah. I'll take the productive player in college over the 5-star that sat on the bench for 2 or 3 years at school X every time.
Right.
So if they think there's something there based on what they've seen and they can, get him up another level from that, I'm cool with it. But I also think this is a money thing. Like you can only spend money in so many spots when you spend money on a quarterback. So next year, like in December, if Moss, I think he's got more than 1 year of eligibility. I could be wrong, but if they don't have to spend on a quarterback, it saves them $1 bazillion. That was part of it. And then also, I don't know how many corners they really wanted in the portal, especially at a decent price tag.
Right. So, I wonder, it's kind of a give and take because it's somewhat the personnel you bring in, but I think that there's a whole scheme issue that Louisville needs to figure out, whether it's getting guys to be able to communicate earlier or those signals communicated earlier. I think that there is a focus to alleviating some of those concerns as we kind of go down the line. One player that I'm excited about after I saw them in spring ball is linebacker Kalib Perry at Tennessee. Is a Kentucky guy, ended up going to Tennessee, played here and there. It's not like he sat the bench for his time in Knoxville, but obviously wanted to go play more. You know Stanquan Clark, TJ Capers and TJ Quinn. I like this addition to the linebacker room with those guys in it.
Yeah, the linebacker group has a lot of physical tools. Now, who plays where, who stays healthy, and all those things.
Right.
But I want to start with the upside that Louisville has. When was the last time they had this much speed and talent at linebacker?
It's been a very long time. Charlie Strong days, honestly.
Okay, well, there you go.
Long time.
If you're not stopping the run, you're not winning those games against teams like Miami and those teams like Clemson.
Right.
Yeah, that's not good. Even Kentucky game, like they're going to run the ball. You have to have linebackers with their schedule. So this is an important addition. Again, you want guys to push the pile, man. Is he going to go in and beat out Stanquan Clark? I don't know. But it's good to have him in there, and having a veteran that has SEC playing experience, man, that never goes out of style for your special teams, for your younger players, and just having a guy, if Clark or somebody comes out of the lineup, do you want a true freshman, redshirt freshman in there? Or you want a guy that's played for a few years in the SEC?
Right.
Look, it's not that hard to pick. So I like this.
I kind of want to end things this way. And one thing that has sort of alleviated some of the concerns about taking mid-major players, and it kind of goes back to what you said. If the production is there, I'm all for going for production over potential. But when it comes to those players that you bring in that maybe they spent a year elsewhere and didn't play, or 2 years and just didn't get much time, when you scout this, because you have more of an overview of across the country, what are some things you're looking for to kind of project, well, this guy hasn't played, but this may lead me to believe that he's going to play, or not so much? Are there a couple factors that you're looking at?
Yeah, the measurables, the length. It's kind of like, think of the NFL draft with the underwear Olympics, where you have the combine and all that. There are certain guys that are going to get drafted because they're 6'6" instead of 6'2.5", stuff like that. That gives you at least a chance. And then what high school program did they play at? Is it a school that he actually got coached, or was he just there running around and they gave him the ball? And then finally, it's the off the field stuff that it's very touchy to talk about publicly, but is this a kid that you want to be around your friends and family? Those
Right.
kind of kids tend to work out better. So if a kid didn't work out at a school where they're loaded, that's cool. But when they were the guy talent-wise and they didn't play, I get real nervous because that's usually off the field stuff. You
Yeah.
don't normally fix that because that's
Character
problems
and
that they created
others,
themselves, and that doesn't normally go away.
It's not really a skill problem. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Brian, thank you for coming on with the limited time that you have to discuss this Louisville portal class. Of course, we are, my goodness, a little under 4 months away until the college football season will start again. I'm sure we'll have Brian on before Louisville kicks off the season in late August. But that's going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the show. Be sure to tune in to Locked On Louisville. Tune in to the portal. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.